Welcome to Penn Jen's Inkwell podcast. My name is Jen Waters. I hope you enjoy my stories. Welcome to Season 2 of Penn Jen's Inkwell podcast. This episode features the Mary Knows Mysteries. It's the first story in the spoken word children's music release, The Great Puzzle. Thank you so much for the overwhelming support of Season 1, which included the first 45 original stories that I wrote and recorded as children's music and spoken word releases. After launching Penn Jen's Inkwell podcast, I released a 17-song singer-songwriter Apple Music release called Fate, produced by Eric Baines, where I wrote all the songs myself. Since everyone loved the first batch of stories, we decided to create more episodes as The Great Puzzle for another Apple Music release, as well as podcast episodes, eventually hoping that Penn Jen's Inkwell podcast could be produced for television, film, or Netflix. I even found my own feather pen and inkwell through Nostalgic Impressions, featured in lovely pictures taken by photographer Alan Wiseman. The Mary Knows Mysteries with heroine Nosy Mary is my version of Nancy Drew mystery stories, which started with The Secret of the Old Clock. I loved reading about Nancy Drew growing up. I had so many of the sequels, and the story never ended. You invested yourself into the character for more than one book, similar to The Babysitter's Club. I thought the stories about Nancy Drew were clever and adventurous, and I wanted to be her. I also liked reading The Hardy Boys. In my Mary Knows series, I based it on my experience as yearbook editor in the 8th grade at Hershey Middle School. Mr. Ed Rockland, who was my 8th grade English teacher, picked me as yearbook editor, which meant that I photographed and compiled the entire 8th grade yearbook. I had my own office, which was the janitorial closet down the hall from his classroom. During the day and after school, I could photograph classes and school events. I remember trying to make sure everyone was featured in the yearbook as much as possible. I would listen to music on the tape cassette player designated for the yearbook editor's office while choosing photos for the yearbook. So, in the Mary Knows Mysteries, I thought, what if Mary had a magic camera that showed her clues to mysteries going on in the middle school? Mary literally knows the mysteries, using a play on words with her last name spelled N-O-S-E, and emphasizing her nose behind the camera and how she always has her nose in everything. Henceforth, her nickname, Nosy Mary. I thought the character and storyline lends itself to endless sequels, like Nosy Mary eventually becoming a journalist. Ironically, years later, after taking American literature in AP English in high school, where we studied John Grisham's fiction novels, transcendentalist and anti-transcendentalist writers, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, Oedipus Rex, King Lear, Heart of Darkness, A Doll's House, J.B., Rebecca, and The Color Purple, among others. I studied magazine journalism at Syracuse University, but it seems that my first magazine that I ever published was the 8th grade yearbook. Now, all these years later, I have Penn Jen's Inkwell podcast and blog. Although I had a minor in music, I also had a second minor in English and textual studies, where we learned to study the meaning of a text, not just simply read the words. For instance, does the text reflect Greek and Roman thought, like Plato and Socrates, or is it more modern or postmodern in thought? I took classes in interpretation of poetry, where we studied the British Lake poets, narrative film, where we studied the concept of voyeurism in Rear Window with actor Jimmy Stewart, Shakespeare in London, where we read A Midsummer Night's Dream, and visited Shakespeare's Globe Theatre and Stratford-upon-Avon, which was the birthplace of Shakespeare, modern African literature, where we studied South African playwright Atal Fugard's Bozeman and Lena and its biblical references, and European and American Judaic literature, where we studied Nobel Peace Prize winner Elie Wiesel's Holocaust memoir, Night, who I later met and heard speak on the Book of Ezekiel from the Bible in Washington, D.C., when working as a features journalist. Then later, when I moved to Los Angeles, I took the Robert McKee Story Seminar twice, as well as his comedy, love story, and thriller genre days. So I suppose that everything adds up to something bigger, even if you can't see what's happening at the time. Now, see if you can solve the mystery of the missing yearbook with Nosy Mary in her premiere adventure. It all started when I was the real-life yearbook editor in the 8th grade. This story is scored to the Nosy Mary theme by Eric Baines. Smile! Called 14-year-old Mary Nose, who loved to take pictures with her magic camera, inherited from her maternal grandmother, Louise Jenkins, a famous photojournalist who took pictures all over the world. Don't miss the moment, Louise would always say. Make sure it lives forever. A smile is happiness you'll find right under your nose. Mary tried to do just that, but not everyone appreciated her enthusiasm. Oh, Nosy Mary, you're taking pictures again, moaned her mother. It seemed that Mary's friends and family always teased the gawky girl. Please take someone else's photo. I don't like to be in front of the camera. Why do you have to stick your nose into everything? At least this time, her larger-than-average nose hid behind a magic camera, and she now had a reason to feel special. What's this? Mary asked, holding up a developed picture in her secret darkroom. With the very first photographs that Mary took from her grandma's camera, extra people and things mysteriously appeared in the pictures when developing them. I just don't know how that person ended up in my photo. It wasn't there when I took the photo. I wonder what it means. Despite the unusual additional people and things that magically appeared in Mary's new photos, she had obvious talent and a keen eye for what other people missed. I see you, Mary declared, taking a picture of Mr. Rockwell, her 8th grade English teacher at Lancaster Valley Middle School. Well, since you see me, why don't you apply to be yearbook editor? I think you have the nose for it, he suggested to Mary, looking into her camera. It's my first year overseeing the yearbook, and I don't know much other than how to teach English. You might know more about photography than I do. It's time for you to shine. I'm not your best student, Mr. Rockwell, Mary argued, unsure of her capabilities. I'm more of a geek with a camera. I need you to be a leader, Mary, Mr. Rockwell decided, giving her the school's yearbook camera. Your pictures are wonderful. Finish the yearbook by March the 1st, so it can be ready for graduation. No excuses. Get the job done, and keep your nose clean, Nosy Mary. The next day, Mary biked to school, forgetting the school camera at home, so she took pictures with Grandma Louise's camera, which she usually carried in her backpack everywhere. A camera is a camera, she thought. Smile, Hank, Mary laughed, snapping a shot of Hank, the janitor, at lunchtime. Put that stupid camera away, Hank yelled at her, holding up his fist. Ignoring Hank, Mary took his picture anyway. Later that afternoon, when she developed the pictures, Mary noticed a strange, ominous glow around Hank. What is wrong with him? Mary wondered aloud. I have to figure this out. During the next week, Mary followed Hank around the school, taking more pictures. Give me the film from your camera, Hank demanded. I told you to stop taking my picture. Stop putting your nose where it doesn't belong. It's my job to take your photo, sir, Mary blurted out. Mr. Rockwell put me in charge of the yearbook. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to return to my office. During the next few weeks, Mary noticed that the yearbook office, a glorified closet, was not always found the way that she left it. The closet was down the hall from Mr. Rockwell's classroom and the best office that he could find for the school's yearbook editor. Where's my radio? Mary asked Mr. Rockwell, one day after school, confused, looking under the office table. I was just playing it. Oh, where are those pictures I developed yesterday? I don't know, Mary, he replied, rolling up his plaid sleeves. No one else uses the closet but you. I hardly even come in here because I'm too busy. I'm going to develop my pictures in my secret darkroom at home tonight, Mary explained. That way, I can keep track of my photographs until we find out where the missing items went. Over the next few months, Mary photographed middle school dances, basketball games, cafeteria lunches, band practices, special assemblies, ski trips, swim meets, and more, even when students did not want their pictures taken. Don't turn up your noses, Mary called to her classmates. You'll thank me 20 years from now that you have pictures of yourselves from your younger days. The magic photos revealed all kinds of things, like who had a crush on whom, who was thinking of their dog, and who was worrying about their science test. She also oversaw Picture Day with a cranky photographer from School Pictures USA named Franz Robert. Oui. If you don't want to smile for the photo, fine, Franz snapped as he took pictures. There's no skin off my nose if you look unhappy in your lifelong portraits. After hours alone working on organizing the perfect selection of photographs for the yearbook, Mary decided that she'd completed the keepsake. The yearbook is finally finished, Mary announced, showing Mr. Rockwell in early March. This is fabulous, Mary, Mr. Rockwell exclaimed, hugging her. I'm so proud of you. You've given your student body a wonderful reminder of this glorious year of school. I'm sending it to the printer tomorrow afternoon. Then, Mr. Rockwell left the masterpiece on the desk in the yearbook office to show the principal the next day. In the morning, when he returned to the larger-than-life closet, the finished product was gone. The yearbook has been stolen, Mr. Rockwell announced over the school intercom. If anyone finds it, there is a reward waiting for you in my office. Bring it to me immediately. What do you mean the yearbook has been stolen? Mary cried, running to her office. She rummaged through the desk and shelves to find nothing but paper scraps and empty film canisters. I'm going to search the school. The yearbook has to be right under my nose. Distraught, she searched through the entire school, taking pictures with Grandma Louise's camera, looking for clues as to the whereabouts of the missing yearbook. All the clues lead back to Hank the janitor, Mary quipped, as the magic pictures came together. Oddly enough, Hank's mop and bucket appeared in every photograph that Mary developed. I'm going to try to talk to him tomorrow after school before I come to any conclusions. Hank, can I please speak to you for a minute? Mary asked in a confrontational tone. What do you want? Hank raged. I've had enough of you and your camera. Hank pushed her into the yearbook office and locked the door with his key. Wait! What are you doing? You can't lock me here overnight, Mary yelled, flipping on the light. Help! Someone help me! Hank is a thief! Oh, I wonder what Grandma Louise would do in a pinch like this. Mary curled up in a ball on the floor and cried until she fell asleep. The next morning, when Mr. Rockwell opened the yearbook office door, Mary burst into tears again. What are you doing here? Mr. Rockwell cried. You look awful. Hank locked me in the closet last night, Mary mumbled. He stole the yearbook. After I called my mom, I'm calling the police. My mom must be worried sick as to where I am. Later that morning, Mary's mother charged down the hall, throwing her fist in the air. Mom, what are you doing? Mary questioned. You can't beat up Hank. I called the police. Please go powder your nose and calm down. He deserves a good reality check, Mrs. Nose demanded. What was Hank thinking? Mary, taking all these nosy pictures got you into a lot of trouble, young lady. Please give up photography. You could be a cheerleader instead. I was a cheerleader in high school. Enough, Mom, Mary insisted. I am a serious photographer like Grandma Louise. When explaining how Mary figured out that Hank was the perpetrator, Mary left out the part about the magic clue-giving pictures that her grandmother's camera made. She did not want anyone to think that she was imagining things. Mary did a wonderful job on the yearbook, Mr. Rockwell explained to Mrs. Nose. I'm so sorry for this nonsense. I had no idea that Hank was so destructive. Everything is going to be okay. By noon, the police arrested Hank the janitor. Sadly, he had been homeless for months and had to sleep in the yearbook closet from time to time, which explained Mary's missing items from the office. Last night I slept in the school's dumpster since I locked Mary in the closet, Hank explained. I just like the yearbook so much that I took it with me, he whispered, twisting the truth with a straight face. Well, that's a bit of a stretch, the police officer declared, putting Hank in handcuffs. Don't cut off one's nose to spite one's face. Give Mary back her yearbook now. I'm sorry, Mary, Hank pleaded, returning the yearbook to its editor. I forgive you, Hank, Mary whispered. At least you took good care of the yearbook. I don't see a scratch on it, she decided, examining it closely. I didn't know you were homeless. I'm going to hold a fundraiser for you through a special photography exhibit. Hank, you need a home. Please let Hank go, Mr. Rockwell explained to the police. We don't want to press charges. We just want Hank to promise to never steal again. Definitely never, ever lock anyone in a closet again. Do you promise, Hank? Yes, sir, Hank agreed. I promise. Ask for help next time, Mr. Rockwell instructed. Hank, you need to speak to the principal to see if the school will allow you to keep your job. I'll try to do better, Hank mumbled as the police took off the handcuffs. I acted really stupid. I'm sorry. Try not to rub my nose in it. We love you, Hank, Mary announced, snapping his picture for a special addition to the completed yearbook. I just got your mugshot, and it's going in the yearbook as one of my favorite memories. Then Mr. Rockwell hurried to the school's loudspeaker to make an announcement. The yearbook has been found, he cheered. Mary solved the mystery on the nose. Nothing gets past her. Nosy Mary's yearbook is the best yearbook ever. Order your copy today. This has been Pen Gen's Inkwell Podcast. I wrote and performed all the original stories in the podcast. This podcast is produced by Eric Baines, who scored all the stories and poems in the series to original and public domain music. The podcast is associated with my blog of the same name, Pen Gen's Inkwell, which can be found on my website, jenwaters.com.